Have to be very careful with that stuff on Facebook,
Yeah, you're not naked. There you go. Best picture.
Now
Listen,
in sunny New Mexico.
you could have been arrested for this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to That's Good at Things podcast. This is episode 4 that we recorded so far. Today I'm here with Markus A from La Vida Vespa, some crazy guy who did
Hi
a tour
there.
around the world on a couple of Vespas in 80 days. Well, and actually in less than 80 days. I'm sure he can explain himself a lot better what happened. So, Markus, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi there, it's Markus. I'm 42 years old and mostly I'm famous for long distance scooter riding. 2014, I rode all around Europe, 32 countries, 22,500 kilometers. Then I rode several tours all over Europe in 2016, 17. I hold two unofficial world records riding 1,691 kilometers in 24 hours through 10 countries. Afterwards, I crossed the US on a Stella 150, and in the end, last year, I crossed again through the United States during my 80 days around the world. What was 27,113 kilometers in 18 countries. It would have been 75 days, but I decided to have some beers with Spanish scooterists instead of finishing.
My audio's down. There we go. There we go. So Marcus and I, we met when he stayed over at our garage. We did a quick interview. What was it like? When were you here? August?
No, that was already in September.
September? Oh yeah, true, true.
Yeah.
We did a quick little interview you can find on our channel, but that's not the point of this podcast. Um, and we met actually the year before when you did the coast to coast in the U.S. when we met at Columbus Rally. It's really
Exactly.
cool.
Up in Ohio.
And
Yes.
it's so funny because the world is such a small place when it comes to Vespas. We were riding, I remember this, we were riding next to each other in the group ride, and I have this Vespa Club Red Lions of Luxembourg sticker on my bike. And you're like
Exactly.
poking me on the ride, like, oh, I've been there, I've been there. So I went back
That
and I
was
found
fun.
pictures
Yeah.
from the Red Lions Club with you when you did, I don't know what you did, but you did another thing in Europe, I guess.
Yeah, that was a 8,000 kilometers through 4 countries for kids with cancer. Giro Germanica, I called it.
Oh,
I
yeah, okay.
rode to 40 clubs, visiting 40 clubs all over Germany, Austria, and Switzerland to raise funds for kids with cancer. And I passed Luxembourg as well because they were also generously hosting me there and contributing a lot.
hmm Yeah, I like the guys over there. They do great stuff. I still haven't visited them. We haven't left the country in like 5 years, way too long. But my first stop when I go home, aside from visiting friends and families, is at their clubhouse. So,
They're amazing clubhouse by now. He does a really great job there.
hmm so after having ridden 80 days around the world, 80 days, are you sick of riding a scooter? Are you tired of riding a scooter?
I have to admit that at the moment I don't ride very much in my daily life. I just came back from Portugal picking up one of the 3 scooters that I rode around the world and another 50cc that I rode 1,000 kilometers through Spain to get back to Portugal. And I was not really keen after last year. I did like 30, 40,000 kilometers in total altogether. And I was not keen anymore in riding anymore since that. I took a few events after my trip, and I was in Ibiza and in Portugal and in Spain on some events. But private day to day daily riding, I don't do much at the moment. It's also I'm considering also getting myself another bike, something bigger, maybe a Harley or some sort of chopper to go for some weekend rides where I don't get black hands because most scooter guys they decide for the 300 GTS, the modern Vespa, if they want to have something more reliable, but that's simply not my thing. So I prefer to have the Vespa on one side for my tours and have another bike.
There's a limited edition Scomadi coming out with a 4-gear, 4-stroke, 400
Yeah,
shifty engine. That sounds really fun. If I was in Europe, I would have been on the list already.
that will definitely be fun. That bike. I wrote this 10 country 24-hour world record on a Scomadi, but I'm actually looking more into the new brand, the Royal Alloy, because they're doing a lot of their framework in aluminium, in alloy, instead of the plastic that the Scomadi uses.
Yeah, I think Royal Alloy is coming to the US too. I'm touching
I hope
wood.
so.
I heard rumors, so I think something's happening there. But
That would be cool.
we have this reoccurring segment on our show where we ask people, what are you riding? What are you working on right now? Even what you're driving. It doesn't have to be a Vespa, but what's your choice?
At the moment, I'm only working on a 50cc. I will tune that a bit for city riding. It was the one I rode through Spain. I will bring it to Bayreuth now, but they actually have the biggest club of all Germany. They have a 300-member club in Bayreuth. That's a lucky coincidence that I met my new girlfriend actually in the city with the biggest club of Germany.
What's the
So
name
I
of
guess I will have a home again.
What's the name of that club? I think you gave me a
Bayreuth.
sticker. No, that was that the, you gave me a sticker, I think, of Hanover.
Yeah, Hanover is my club. That's from the north of Germany, and it will stay my club. But I might join for some ride outs with the club of Bayreuth,
Mm-hmm.
city of Bayreuth. It's in the south in Bavaria. Yeah.
As I always thought Bayreuth. You know, as a Luxembourg, I always thought Bayreuth and Bayern was the same thing. It sounds the same.
Yeah, it pronounces very similar. It's true.
Oh, my dogs are fighting. Hold on.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool. I hear you.
Well, I forgot to turn my microphone on, so I was muted. I'm sorry. So I repeat what I said. I'm working on this P125 for this old gentleman in a town over. His son reached out to me, and the bike is mint, which is this really nice P125 in gray. It's the same year than my P200, so it's fun to see what that thing actually looked like when it was stock in comparison to what mine looks like now.
You find them very rare that they're in a good condition. Mostly
Yeah,
they're really like ridden down.
and it's been a pleasure to work on it, and it's almost an honor to work on something that nice. I know people get excited when they find a 60s 70s bike in a garage, but man, I mean a P125, this is from 79. This still has lots and lots of years on it, so there's not
Cool.
much difference between this and a Sprint, maybe a few years.
Yeah, I have one of those, the 79 P200. I have one of those. Madalena. I rode her around Europe. But she suffered. I have to admit that she's not in a mint condition at the moment. None of my bikes are.
What you ride them? Hold on.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to find a picture of that 200 I prepared. So this one, right?
Yeah, exactly this one.
Oops. Hold on, there we go. What were the signatures for on that bike?
Actually, during those 32 countries, I was hosted by people, given food and shelter. And whenever somebody was nice, I allowed them to sign it as a souvenir to me. So they got a place on the bike as a memory.
Did you use a Sharpie or a Lackstift, a paint pen?
No, it's a permanent marker.
Okay, that's a cool idea.
So I covered it with some lac, some seal afterwards, but it doesn't really stay that way very nicely.
Yeah.
The sun does a lot of damage on it.
I did the same thing a couple of years ago. I built a Typhoon for a 50cc scooter meet, and it wasn't ready. Like, I just wanted to take the body work and make it a community thing. So I took it out to the event.
Yeah.
And I put it in the middle of the main place that everyone was passing by, because there was drag racing happening and all that stuff, and everyone was walking by. So I put a huge sign on it, "Please leave your mark," and people started, with a white pen, started signing on it. And at the end, this was during the time of forums and so on, so you saw all the people signed on it that had these handles that you met on forums and that kind of stuff. So that was cool. But
that's very nice.
I wish I still had those plastic panels, but they got lost when I moved.
They did that as well now last year it was 2017 in Celle. The Vespa Club of Germany put a P200 there for people to sign. And they had people from all over the world signing that scooter, and they auctioned it off afterwards, I think, for a charity.
It's nice because it gives you a great community feel, I think. You know, like
Definitely.
Everyone comes together, and that's what the community is all about.
Yeah.
All right, so we got this out of the way. I want to talk about your 80 days around the world. Please remind me again how many days it was, because I will always forget.
Actually, I did 77 days till Valladolid, and I stayed there for 3 days partying with the Spanish community on the Hispano Vespa on an event, because I promised the scooter club of Madrid that I don't finish before 80 days. I could have finished on 77, but they actually waited for me with a police escort and camera teams from the national television and stuff, so I couldn't just pop up and say, "Now I'm here."
You did. I remember in our first talk we had this conversation, but let's remind the viewers here and the listeners. You did this. There was an inspiration to do this trip.
Yes, two Spanish guys said they did 80 days around the world. Actually, they said 79 days around the world in 1962. And I met one of those guys on an event in Spain 2015, and I decided to ride the same distance alone, like a solo trip, without any further support, and make it one day more out of respect, because it was different times, 1962.
Mm-hmm. And
obviously because of Jules Verne, because for me the most inspiration was the story of Jules Verne, the famous book 80 Days Around the World, written 1873, I think, 100 years ago.
I've always been tempted by the Cannonball, you know, the US trip from East Coast to West, or whatever they do it, like coast to coast.
Yeah,
in the States.
Must be fun.
And you did a solo Cannonball just in preparation for this trip, so hats off.
Yeah, I did it twice, basically, yeah.
How's your butt?
Oh, that's actually that's not the problem. I had more pain in my wallet than my butt. I'm a rather small guy. I'm not very high. I'm not really a tall guy. So for me, the sitting position on a scooter is quite comfortable. If I would be as tall as you, I would probably suffer more.
Oh, I suffer when I get out of bed. So, there's that. But let me pull up another picture, as I want to briefly comment about this. Hold on. No. So I posted a picture on Instagram with you riding your Bajaj through Kazakhstan or wherever it was. I don't know. Your famous profile picture. This one, that one.
Oh yeah, that was Kazakhstan exactly. It was the desert of Kazakhstan. Riding along, some friends from Poland. They were there. I met them on the ferry, and they kept me company for one day in Kazakhstan because they also rode towards Uzbekistan, Tajikistan up that road.
Were they on scooters too?
They were up and no, they were riding in a Russian UAZ transporter. It was like some 4-wheel drive van from the military, and they were riding up to Pami Highway. Their destination was Pami Highway from Poland through several countries up to Pami Highway. Okay. I'm still in touch with them. It's called Buchanka. Buchanka means something like bread loaf, because the UAZ looks like a bread loaf. And they actually managed to destroy the motor entirely in Uzbekistan.
These guys?
Completely. Yeah, exactly those.
Buchanka. Yeah, if you're interested, you can watch that. But
it's pretty cool.
What intrigues me
very nice pictures.
What intrigues me about this picture here is, what do you have on your seat?
Oh, that's a Nambu seat. It's because it's a natural material, and the Nambu has a very nice. It's first of all, it's comfy, and second, it is breathing. So it's you don't get too hot and you don't get too cold on it. The Nambu regulates temperature very, very nicely, so you don't sweat your ass.
I remember years ago, my sister, she did a trip to New Zealand for a year. And my parents were crazy about getting lamb skin from New Zealand for their Harleys, because there was a company who made, these skins for Harley seats specifically. Did you buy this in advance? Did you carry this all the way? Did you have this on your Stella when you were in the US?
I had that already on my P200 when I went to Elefantentreffen in winter. In Bavaria, we have this winter meeting, the bike winter meeting, and I put it there to not freeze my balls off at minus 15 degrees Celsius. So I had it beforehand on another scooter, and I placed it on this one. It is actually, I made that myself. It was custom made by me, the seat. It was a male seat that I get from a Spanish colleague, from a Spanish male scooter, from a post scooter. That is P125 scooters all over Spain that were equipped with a shorter seat, so a box would fit in the back. And I used that one on my first trip and adjusted it with the wool to make it more comfy and more warm during winter.
Did you carry this everywhere, or is it still on the scooter in Moscow right now?
It's still in Moscow.
Okay, I see.
I was lucky enough that for the US, Alex Vespa man from West Virginia, he was generous enough to send me during my coast to coast on the first one. He sent me an airhawk cushion, which is very comfy as well. It's very cool.
Oh yeah, true. I remember you had this black. Was it black?
Inflatable cushion.
Yeah.
It actually really does what it says. It doubles your riding time because it's very comfy. You can adjust the air in it. You can inflate it to your needs. It's very nice.
I have a fake sheepskin in the basement that I once prepared to put over my seat, and I never ever think about putting it on. I always forget. Oh well. But yeah, so this brings me to one of the viewer questions. We'll continue talking about the 80 days, but I think this fits really well. So Jamie, a good friend here from Cincinnati, she's this strong girl. She rides her motorcycle to work every day.
Yeah.
And she recently got a pair of gloves that she's like dreamy about, because it's pre-chargeable heating gloves. So I think that's where her question comes from. What piece of gear do you use the most? Like, what piece of gear has been the most memorable throughout your trip?
I had some nice gear from Alvivo, some sleeping bags with me. I had some down jackets with me. The normal gear, the riding gear, I had actually had some Nice gloves from a American brand. What was the name again? Oh my god. They have nice jackets as well. They have an Italian logo. Damn, that's embarrassing. He will see the podcast.
Corazzo?
Corazzo, exactly.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. I had some very nice gloves by Corazzo, and they were really good. I was really happy with them. Um, the jacket that you see, the outdoor jacket that I wear, is some motorcycle jacket that I wear over my overall.
Hmm.
Um, I had some. Yeah, I don't really use special equipment with it. I had a modified helmet, a personalized helmet that was sent to me by a company called Helmate. So they were actually painting my logo and my name on it.
Hmm.
There was a funny situation in Turkey. I was standing on a traffic light waiting, and a guy on a Harley pulls up next to me, and then he's like, "Hey Marcus, will you come and have a beer with me?" And I like look next to him, and I was like, "Why the hell does he know my name?" Because my helmet was brand new, so I didn't realize that he actually can read my name on the helmet.
Hmm.
I was a bit slow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember all the gear you had on your Stella when you stopped by here. I'm like,
Yeah, on the
it,
Stella it was actually not that much anymore because I was keeping it a little less camping. I was just having a 20% of camping in the US, very
hmm.
little, because I was taking about 400 miles a day, 350 to 400 miles a day, and then I mostly just pulled up to some cheap motel and pushed the bike into the room.
So this brings me to another question. That's a good segue because Kevin asks, what was the sketchiest place you left any of your scooters overnight?
Overnight, I never leave my scooter alone outside. I had once it was not sketchy, but it was interesting. I had a tire shop next to a hotel in Albania where they kept my bike safe, and I was actually a bit worried overnight because I was not sure that it really closed up properly.
Hmm.
And the other times in Russia, for example, I slept next to the bike without a tent on 3 occasions on a gas station
Hmm.
because I was worried that somebody might rush up to me and give me some trouble, and I had to leave quickly and leave my tent bag behind. So I didn't want to risk it, so I slept just on a sleeping roll and a sleeping bag next to the bike. Sketchy. I had a lot of sketchy places. I've slept in parking lots in several places. In Europe, I was lucky enough to get hosted by a lot of clubs.
Hmm.
But for example, in France, I couldn't find the campsite I was supposed to pull in. It was in the middle of the night because some construction company just had blocked the road to the campsite, and I couldn't see it because they closed the road and it was gone. So after passing 3 times and my navigation telling me to turn right, I just
Yeah.
turned left and then went to the next piece of forest and dropped my tent there
Yeah. It.
and shared my room with about 500 mosquitoes.
Yeah. Cam is. Have you had any trouble camping in Europe at all? Because I always feel like
No,
wild camping is not really regulated. Like it's you can get arrested
it
for this
is
stuff,
very
right?
regulated in Europe, and actually it's forbidden.
Yeah, that's what I
In,
mean.
uh,
Yeah.
in nearly every state in Europe, it's forbidden to camp wild, apart from Scandinavia,
Hmm.
which they have a law. It's called Jedermanns Gesetz, basically saying that everybody can camp wild as long as it's public ground. Um, I had no problems camping wild ever in Europe. Uh, Usually, people are nice and friendly if you're not stupid. But I had some very nice places where I slept. For example, once a parking lot in Italy during my European trip. I parked on a campsite in the middle of the night, and at 10 o'clock, 10:30 in the night, I hear noises outside. So I pull up my tent because I was in a very quiet corner of some museum parking lot, and I didn't expect anything to happen there. What I didn't see is that actually was the working ground for some local hookers who were very busy outside my tent, taking care of customers. Another time, I nearly slept on a parking ground of a graveyard. I decided not to because it was Saturday night and Sunday morning in Italy. They tend to be very busy on the graveyard. I was sleeping behind gas stations in Croatia and Spain. I was sleeping, yeah, in most incredible places.
Did you carry a lock for your bike?
I actually have a steel cable with me, mostly trying to connect it to something, but never stay further away than I cannot sprint there. So I mostly stay next to my bike
Okay.
during long trips because I heard too many stories of people getting robbed. For example, in London, some bikes disappeared. On the trip to Belfast, and in Scotland, some bikes disappeared already from friends doing long trips.
I see.
And that's simply something you cannot resolve. You can have a lot of mechanical troubles, and you can have all sorts of troubles, and everything can be stolen. But if your bike is gone, your trip is over.
Yeah, that's true. So while we talk about the 80 days, I want to pick up the last viewer question here, which is Dave. Shout out to Dave from Scooter Mercado. We can read your question in Germany.
Hey, Dave.
Welches Land hatte die besten Mädels? Which translates into which country had the best girls. I don't know what he means with best girls. Let's say with the prettiest girls.
Well, when you enter the Balkans, it's very nice girls, but when you enter Russia, it will become surreal. Like Kazakhstan and Russia, you entered gas stations, you basically had some Victoria's Secret style top model girls standing there. It was pretty amazing. I fell in love about twice a day. I'm kidding.
You gotta keep it quiet there.
Yeah, I have to be careful. If my girlfriend hears that, I get beaten up.
It's interesting to just meet new people from all over the world, I assume.
Very much so. I mean, the hospitality all over the world is amazing. People are always scared and so overly worried about their personal safety regarding being robbed, stabbed, or harassed or something. But I only have positive experiences. From 40 countries that I traveled now so far, I've never been attacked by anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean your trip was very successful. You've achieved what you wanted to do. And,
Yes.
You had tons and tons of followers to do so. And we'll take a quick break here for a few minutes. And when we come back,
Okay.
I want to continue talking about life after this trip. So I'm really curious
Yeah,
about
sure.
what it looks like now and what are you planning to do next. So we'll take a quick 5 minutes here, and we'll come back and we'll continue. All right.
Nice. Yep.
All right, we'll come back.
Hi.
We're here with Markus Andre Meyer. I should have researched
Exactly.
Markus Andre Meyer from La Vida Vespa, who did 80 days around the world on 3 different bikes. Well, 3 Vespas.
Yeah.
And we talked about your trip. We talked about little intricacies and what challenges you faced on your bike. I have 3 more questions actually that just came in from viewers. One is from Jason, who asked, what are the 3 essentials to take on a Vespa road trip besides camping gear and clothing?
A basic tool set. So you can dismantle, for example, a cylinder. You have to adjust your carb on the way. Spark plugs, cables. Like a basic toolkit and some spares. A clutch maybe if you go on a longer trip. Yeah, that's basically it. You can. I always carry a piston and some piston rings with me. Clutch. Sometimes on this trip, for example, I even had an additional carb with me. I had about 50 kilos of gear, so naming 3 essentials is very little.
Yeah.
Have your medical kit with you, like a small first aid kit should be on the bike. In Europe and in Germany, it's obligatory. You have to have that, but I recommend that worldwide to always carry some. What else? What else? What else? Yeah, that's basically it.
I remember this quote from you.
Oh yeah, rain gear.
Rain gear?
Obviously,
Yeah.
rain gear.
I remember this quote from you when you were here last September, which you said, you can plan for anything, but you will always miss the one tool that you need.
Exactly.
You will never have everything with you.
No, and I had 50 kilos, so that's like 100 something pounds in gear with me, and I still didn't have everything.
Yeah, you can never.
For example, in Kazakhstan, I had to improvise by custom building some jet for my car, because I had only a set of carbs that started for 177 and bigger engines, and ended up having a 125 used cylinder from some Turkish workshop. And I had to rejet my carb and couldn't, because I didn't have that sort of small jet with me. So I had to find a workshop there and explain to a Russian mechanic in a Kazakhstan workshop how to custom build a smaller jet with him. And he didn't speak English and I didn't speak Russian. So
how do you do it? Out of a piece of brass, or do you take an
no,
existing
yeah. We welded it in. We closed the jet and rebored it basically.
Oh, cool! Damn, that's smart. See, here in this world, you go online and you order a jet and you wait 2 days and you have it, right? But if
exactly, but not in
world,
Kazakhstan or Russia. There's no shop that sells anything for Vespa. They don't know Vespa. Riding a Vespa into Russia is like riding a pink unicorn. They have seen it maybe on television if you're lucky.
You should have painted your scooter pink then. Pink with
that would be a cool idea. Riding a pink small frame up to Pamir Highway. That would be cool.
So another question is, did you break any parts? Did you hold a piston? That's the big question here from Scott.
Yeah. I broke my piston, not the piston. I broke my cylinder, not the piston. So I had a hole in my cylinder. I had 2 clutches broke. I had the whole rear brake hub was destroyed because one of the a piece fell out and destroyed my whole rear brake. And all of that happened already from Spain to Turkey on the first 10,000 kilometers of my trip. That all happened already. Afterwards in Russia, I had tire blowouts twice and several cables. CDI was broke and a spark plug was broke. Clutch cable was off. So everything that could basically break on a scooter was broken once on a trip. In the United States, I noticed that my Stella probably had an air leak when I reached the top of the Rocky Mountain National Park. 12,000 something feet without rejetting. I realized that I'm in trouble.
What did we learn? Well, it's not going up, it's coming down that screws you over.
Yeah, exactly. So I put the biggest jet I had and I just told the Stella that she's fine for the next 3,000 miles.
Yeah, I remember we did the overhaul on your bike. I pulled the spark plug out and it was black. It was black
exactly, because I just
night.
put a...
And you were like, it's fine. Just put in your spark plug and it's fine.
I had to cheat the bike. I had to tell her that she's fine.
Yeah, she was fine. She made it. So this is the transitional question, and this is the second time I actually was asked this, and it's something that I want to know too. I'm gonna quote Scott here, which is, how are you getting along with the post-adventure blues?
This is pretty harsh, actually. Come back and there's no mission. In the first 3 days when I was arriving in Madrid, I sat there in a coffee shop with my friends, and it felt like a soldier without a mission. Because everything out there in the traffic, the people walking there, shopping, everything felt completely surreal because I didn't have anywhere to rush to, anything to fix, anything to organize. So after 80 days of hustle, of running to get to that, to achieve that benchmark, I fell in a big black hole and I was sitting there as if it was like not my life I'm living at the moment, like sitting next to a movie. Afterwards, I came back home, and the first thing I got was a big, I got the flu directly. I was sick for about 2 weeks because my body was completely exhausted.
Yeah.
To explain, I was riding through typhoon. I was riding through all sorts of floodings. I was riding 80 days with an average of 399 kilometers, which is about 250 miles for 80 days daily. That means your body is completely exhausted. And at the point when you can finally relax and that torture is over, it will blow up in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do, it will blow up in your face.
Yeah, the flu for 2 weeks. That sounds.
Um, Now it's like I have to find a new dream. Basically, that's the harsh reality. You've accomplished the biggest goal of your life, a big dream. You do something that has never been done, and you come back home and you realize, okay, and what am I gonna do tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have anything on my to-do list. I didn't have anything on my bucket list anymore because I've visited 40 countries now, did 80 days around the world. I've done more on a Vespa scooter I could ever imagine. So what is next? I didn't feel like riding a scooter. Maybe I will do some trip on an Ape. That's like a three-wheeler. It's like a tuk-tuk basically.
Yeah.
Or I will do some van life with my girlfriend. But I have to readjust. Now I'm looking for a job. Probably next month I can start a new job. And yeah, I did a lot of press work afterwards that keeps you busy. Keeping you busy is a good idea after such an adventure to not fall into that blues.
So the other side of this was the other question I got, and it's the one that's on my mind really, is during up to your 80 days, during your cross to the US and during your 80 days, you were at least in, the people that I knew, in the community that I knew, you were a minor celebrity. How does it feel coming out of this trip, and like, do you feel like you lost that status?
I don't know celebrity. A lot of people followed that trip. About it was I think that the peak was about 260,000, so quarter million people, more than quarter
Mm-hmm.
million people followed my trip. There was television, there was national news in several countries. That's nice and interesting, but it doesn't pay your rent.
Mm-hmm.
As long as that status doesn't at some point pay off, it's not real. So it's nice to have, and you get your respect by some people. A lot of people don't even show that because they cannot imagine the dimension of that trip. So I don't think it's such a big deal. Um, there has been a change in the Vespa community and the scooter community in Europe, especially. It's more about what you have instead of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that lately a lot, that you can buy yourself a $15,000 super tuned scooter, and then you big hero on a rally, and you can ride around the world in 80 days, and people don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that much of a big deal, basically, because our society is changing a lot lately.
Well,
In the 60s,
you're a big
70s,
deal
you
for
would
us.
become a hero with it.
Yeah, you're a big deal for us here at least, and you're always welcome.
Thank you very much.
But it's interesting to see that, just having followers doesn't pay the bills. Like, life is not always around built around social media.
No, it's not. Like those likes and all that is nice to have, and the following is cool because at some point some sponsors might give you some gear like oil and tires, but in the end, for example, all those television appearances, radio interviews, and all the newspaper stories, nobody pays for that. Basically, you have to go there and be happy to answer to them, and you take that for your sponsors, but you don't earn money with it.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind going into detail of finances for this trip?
No, no, not at all. In the 2 years of preparation and with the coast to coast beforehand, I spent about 25K for the whole thing,
Euros or dollars?
including flight insurances, the bikes, everything.
Okay. Is that euros or dollars?
Euros.
Okay. I mean, it used not to make a big difference, but nowadays it kind of makes a big difference. So
Yeah, it starts
it's worth
becoming a little
asking.
bit more.
Yeah, it's worth asking. Um,
So yeah, it was a lot of money, but considering that an average um, around the world trip by airplane using hotels and stuff would probably cost about 30K dollars
mhm.
for an experience like that has not been done for like 70 years of Vespa history, that's actually cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I saved a lot of money by not taking only one scooter, by not flying from continent to continent with the scooter, but using three. I saved about 8,000.
You mentioned the guys that done it before.
Yeah,
What was that, in the 60s?
in the 60s.
Would you, knowing their story, would you do it on the same bike that they had?
On that bike, I'm not sure. The thing is, there has been a few misunderstandings about that trip. They had support by the military. They had support by state organizations in Spain. They had 8 or 9 inch tires, I think, or 9 inch, not even 10 inch.
Yeah, that's what.
That's very uncomfortable. There have been two up on the scooter, which is a big challenge. I'm not really sure about some things that were told in that book if they're 100% the way they said it they would be, but the bike wouldn't make a difference. The Vespa Sprint that I basically used is also a classic from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the techniques, it was a Bajaj Chetak, it was the license, but it's basically a Vespa Sprint.
So I want to talk. I was thinking, 60s bike and 8-9 inch tires, and you hit a pothole like this. 10-inch tires don't even save you, but I can't even imagine on 8.
I had, like I said before, on the 10-inch wheels here on the Sprint, I had 2 tire blowouts. I crashed. I had my collarbone misplaced for about 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So with an 8-inch wheels, it would be a nightmare. This is already horrible, but that would be a nightmare on 8-inch wheels.
Yeah. Where was that? Oh, sorry, I'm moving you by accident here. Those bikes are in a museum, right?
Which one? The 8-inch wheels?
Yeah, the 60s bike that they did.
Yeah, that one is in the Piaggio Museum because it is in the museum because it was signed by Dali, by the famous painter.
Yeah.
It was painted on.
Which museum is that? Is that the Vespa Museum in...
The official Vespa Museum in Pontedera.
Okay.
They would probably not allow me in there because mine was a Bajaj Chetak, which is a Sprint license, and the Stella is also not a real PX. I had some people actually being pretty bothered that I don't have a Piaggio symbol on my scooter, but I decided to do that on purpose because I had no support whatsoever by Piaggio.
Mm-hmm. Don't worry, our Stellas are rebadged Vespas, and I think that makes it worse. That's actually a funny story because that bike came from Hawaii, and they didn't know how to register it in Hawaii. Like the BMV there, I got it from a friend who moved over here, and he said they had no idea how to register it. So he just put Vespa badges in it and went in there and like, it's a Vespa, and it was fine. Like America's so good when it comes to registering. But I marked down actually the question about the Vespa Club, the Vespa Museum is more personal because I want to put that on the list if I go to Europe this summer. That's where I want to go.
That's near Pisa in Pontedera.
Okay. I've never been to Pisa. It's so weird. Like I've been to many places in Europe, but I've not been to many tourist places. You always avoid, as someone who's from there, I always felt like I avoided tourist places.
I think I still have an open ticket from Pisa. I wanted to take a picture of that silly tower, of the Leaning Tower, and I went into town and I parked my scooter somewhere, and some guys came up putting a ticket on it, and I was standing in the middle of about 50 parked scooters and bicycles. So I walked up to the Italian guy just putting the ticket on my bike, and I said, "What's that for?" "Yeah, for you can't park here." I was like, "Can you look around? I'm surrounded by 50 scooters, so." "Yeah, they all have a special permit, and can I see the special permit, please? The only thing that you saw is my German number plate."
Yeah.
So I decided to not pay that.
You just ride away. I always got tickets when I parked in Amsterdam next to the canal. Every time I drove there, and I always got a ticket because I didn't pay. But it's like how do you call it? Commune. It's only the city of Amsterdam. It's not like it's the police.
Yeah.
So crumble up, throw it away. By the way, police of Amsterdam, if you're watching this, I didn't do that.
No, exactly.
I didn't do that. I'm sorry. So, what is next? What are you planning to do in the future? I mean, it's hard to beat 80 days around the world. So, any
I'm not
ideas?
sure. Maybe I put on a pink rabbit suit, put myself on a small frame, and ride up the Palmy Highway, the highest highway of the world, basically one of the highest highways in the world, which is also one of the most dangerous roads. That would be fun. On the other side, maybe my girlfriend is not happy about it, and I just ride with her in my van around the world, or we use an AP tricycle to go to Iceland. I don't know yet, actually, to be honest.
I have an idea, and this might sound really crazy, but what if you get a 9 to 5 job and a regular apartment?
Well, I hope that was an answer now. No, I can't do that. Sorry. I will have a normal job now for a while,
Yeah.
but that's also temporary.
Don't tell them.
So,
Would you do it again? That's I mean, that's such a standard question, but would you do it again?
no, actually not for $1 million. Because I have been so many times, and I answered that already on several occasions. I would never send anybody I like on this trip with a time frame, and I would never do it again because I have been so many times in life danger because of silly choices I made to just accomplish those 80 days.
Yeah.
For example, like one of the anecdotes, 10 days ago, I sat in my bed watching a TV show about the 10 most dangerous roads in the world. And by coincidence, one of them was on my trip. It was that road between Belgrade and Bar, Montenegro, through the mountains of Montenegro. You come down a mountain with 50 slopes and 50 tunnels without light, riding an old school scooter with luggage rack in the front in a thunderstorm, followed by Turkish and Albanian truck drivers. This is simply stupid. And you only do that when you have extreme time pressure. Otherwise, you would never do that ride, because it was considered one of the most dangerous roads in the world. I did it in the night, in the rain, in a thunderstorm. It's just stupid. Would not do that again.
I mean, I have the utmost respect for what you've done. It's insane to think about so many miles. I mean, I my butt hurt when I rode up to Columbus and back, and that's like 280 miles in a day.
Now multiply this by
Yeah.
80.
Yes. No, thank you.
It's like training for marathon. And it's not a GTS, like 12-inch wheels and nice suspension and perfect brakes. It's a 70s bike.
Yeah.
People tend to forget that. And the big bikers, they don't really show respect because they have no clue what it means to have a classic scooter with a shitty seat and ride 250 or 300 miles a day. My longest trip on this was between Albania and Greece, from Durrës in Albania to Athens in Greece. It was 690 kilometers, would probably be about 400 miles, something, I guess, in a day. That was the longest trip on this journey. And I could never do less than 350, basically, to not lose a day.
So last week I had Caitlin on. I think you met Caitlin in Columbus. She's a tall blonde woman. She runs a scooter shop in Columbus, and she's part of the organizer of the rally.
Yes,
she was on
I
last
met.
week, and she said that her and her fiance, soon husband, are going to Egypt to do a scooter trip through Egypt. There's a company that organizes trips
Yeah,
and so on.
Scooter Challenge Egypt or something it's called, I
Scooter
think.
Challenge Egypt. All I'm thinking of, I would love to go on a scooter challenge organized by Markus A. That's the guy I would follow, because he has the experience to keep a group going, and well, maybe not the group going, but he has an experience to at least keep himself going, and everyone can just feed off that.
That would be fun, probably. That would be fun. We were actually considering that, but I found out that leading a group is a very different challenge.
Yeah, that's true.
It's more type of babysitting sometimes.
I suck at group rides. You know, like so often, I'm the guy. Let's go to X and Y place. I'm gonna lead. Put my phone up with the GPS. We're group ride. It's like an hour and a half, and either I'm going too fast for the people behind me, or I decide to go around a corner way too late. Oh, well, let's turn right here, like last minute. I suck at leading. I really don't like being in the front. I like to be just behind the leader in the group ride, but that's about it.
When I ride in big groups or ride outs or something, or in some events, I try to be always the last rider.
Yeah.
I just follow. I just keep it quiet and follow, and let other people do the orientation, everything, and I just try to shut down my brain and enjoy the views.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think next for you is to get your bikes, right? That's what I picked up earlier. So you got to go to Moscow to pick up your Bajaj.
Exactly. I still have to visit the Vespa Club Moscow. Alexander there keeps my Bajaj safe, and Karsten in Tiger K in Carolina keeps my other bike safe, and I still have a helmet with my friend Lars over in Thessaloniki, and with my other friend Brechtje from Utrecht. I have some camping gear, so my gear is spread all over the planet, basically. And I still have to get that stuff together.
And then after that, it's just new life, right, for you? It's just moving on.
Yeah, I will find a new challenge, a new adventure.
Yeah.
You can just check out La Vida Vespa on Facebook, and I will keep you guys posted whatever happens.
That's what I was going to say. I think we'll give you the floor for a couple minutes of plugging yourself. Are you writing a book?
At the moment, I'm writing a book. It will be now. I started in English, but I changed to do it in German now, because that way I can use it when I do some talks here in Germany, visiting clubs, because then people might be interested after the talk to get the book straight away.
Yeah.
But at some point, I hope that by the end of the year, I have at least 1 or 2 books ready. Like the German and English version would be nice.
Have you... This is completely off topic, but I think I got that from you. The guy who rode Africa on a scooter, and he came out blind. Yeah, he came out blind out of that trip.
Oh, no, that's... Yeah. That was... the blind scooter guy. You can find him on Facebook.
Yeah, the blind
they actually went from South Africa to Dublin.
Oh, yeah.
And he ended up blind after the trip. He still has some adventure going. His biggest adventure at the moment is that he found a woman and they have a child now. So
he might get a 9-to-5 job.
Becoming blind doesn't stop life.
He might get a 9-to-5 job too. That's scary.
Oh my God. No, actually he has written some books about it, and he's still not having a 9-to-5, I think.
Yeah. I'm still trying to find a good way to get the book over, because shipping a book from South Africa is something else. I messaged him a while ago. I got to get back on that and get that book over here. But yeah, I mean, if you finish your book, we're down. Absolutely.
That would be actually a pretty cool candidate for your podcast, I guess. He could have some nice stories.
Thank you.
That would be a nice follow-up on that one, because he has some adventure to tell as well, definitely.
There we go. Blind scooter guy on my calendar. Learn every day. I'm scared I'm running out of people. But I think the scooter community
just give me a heads up. I have a list of people who are interesting, and they sit all over the world. International candidates.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. Always fun meeting you, or in this case, talking to you.
You know, whenever you get your van or yourself and your girlfriend over here, you're welcome to stay. So that saves,
Thank you very much.
hotels on a US trip, but I don't think you're the hotel guy anyway. You can camp in my backyard if that makes it more adventurous.
Very nice, very nice.
And then, we'll see you soon, and follow. Let's put up La Vida Vespa real quick. People can check out what's going on. That would be 80 Days Around the World. Is that your page, or do you have a different one?
Yeah, that's my page, exactly.
Dope. Yeah, there we go. Right. And
La Vida Vespa, 80 Days Around the World.
That's your forehead. Oh, what's the story behind this?
Oh, that was the finish line. That was the first picture was after I finished the trip around Europe when I stood on the scooter, and the second one was me finishing after 80 days around the world in kilometer zero in Spain. You can see quite a difference in the attitude.
We should finish. Hold on, with my favorite picture of your trip. Where are you? Butt naked.
I know what's coming now.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
I know what's
you know.
coming
You took
now.
it for that exact reason. Wait, it's not on here. Oh, it might not be on here.
A bit further down. I didn't post it for a while now. I have to be very careful with that stuff on Facebook, you know?
Yeah, you're not naked. There you go. Best picture.
Down in sunny New Mexico.
You know, you could have been arrested for this.
The funny thing is, I was actually putting up my suit again, and I was just finishing up getting dressed when a family with 2 little children pulled up on that salt lake.
Oops.
I was like, oh my god.
Last weekend I went mini moto racing, and it was like 7 in the morning in this indoor karting hall. There's a main road outside of the karting hall, and I was looking for room to change. So I'm going in this room, drop my pants and everything, standing there in my underwear, just about to pull my leathers on. And I look out and I turn to the right, and there was a huge window to the main road. You know, it was dark, the lights were on, and I was standing right next to the window, and I didn't notice.
Yeah, that way you get female fans. I have 3.5 female fans after the picture.
3.5.
Yeah.
On that terrible disappointment. Thank you, Andreas. For those who are following the podcast, don't forget to comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow Markus. Why did I call you Andreas? Follow Markus on his social media, on his future adventures. And I'll see you next time.
It was a pleasure. I send greets over to the States. Greet your girl.
Yep.
Cuddle your dogs. And we see each other soon, hopefully.
All right. See ya.